What happens when a self-made CEO trades his office for a dish pit and hears a chef tear into a teenage helper like he's nothing? Zane Zimmerman stood in the back of his black SUV, pulling on a faded gray hoodie and a pair of scuffed work boots. He looked nothing like the man who'd built an 18-location fast casual restaurant chain from a single food truck 15 years ago. His salt and pepper beard was trimmed down to stubble, and a ball cap shaded half his face. With a pair of fake glasses and a name tag that read, Rick, he looked just like any other 50-something dishwasher looking to make a few bucks. The location he was headed into was one of the busiest Store 11 in downtown Indianapolis. He hadn't been there in almost 4 years. Most of the newer staff had never met him, and turnover in the kitchen was high enough that no one would recognize him. The disguise was flawless, and besides, in a company this size, most people assumed the CEO lived in another world entirely. Truth was, Zane used to know every person by name. But lately, he'd been hearing small complaints not from corporate channels, but through whispered messages from old employees who still kept in touch. Staff were quitting without notice, morale seemed off, and one comment stuck with him. "It doesn't feel like your place anymore." That burned. So here he was. Undercover. No cameras. Just him and the truth. When he walked in through the back kitchen door, the first thing that hit him was the heat. Steam rolled off the dish pit, and the clatter of pans echoed through the tile walls. The general manager, a woman in her early 30s with sharp eyes, glanced up from the prep station. "You must be Rick," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "Dishwashing. We're short-handed again." Zane nodded and kept his head down. "Happy to help." They were short 2 dishwashers. One had quit mid-shift 3 days ago, the other called out sick. That's why they'd rushed a temp through hiring. Rick was the perfect cover. He got to work. Within 20 minutes, his shirt was soaked through. Dishes clanked, pans came in blackened from the line, and 2 servers dropped off glassware with barely a glance. It was chaos, but manageable. Zane kept his mouth shut, working steadily, observing. Then around noon, he saw something that stopped him cold. A teenage boy, couldn't have been more than 16, was carrying a crate of chopped vegetables from the walk-in. His name tag read, Ty. His hands were shaking slightly, and he looked nervous, like he didn't belong. From the other end of the kitchen, a voice barked out, "Hey! What the hell is this cut?" The chef, a tall, broad man with a thick beard and a messy apron, stormed over to Ty. He grabbed a handful of carrots from the crate and threw them back in. "Did you cut these with your eyes closed, kid? What are you, stupid?" Ty froze. "I followed the chart." "The chart? You think I give a damn about the chart? You're wasting product, and you're wasting my time." Zane straightened up from the dish pit, heart pounding. No one stepped in. Another line cook looked away. The general manager was nowhere in sight. "I'm sorry," Ty said, his voice cracking. "You're sorry?" The chef took a step closer. "Why are you even in my kitchen? You think this is a charity? Get it through your head, you screw up again, you're out. Go redo it, and this time, try growing a brain." Ty turned to go, shoulders hunched, face red. Zane watched him disappear back into the walk-in. His chest tightened. The chef turned and muttered to a nearby cook. "Every summer they send these damn high school kids. Can't hold a knife, can't take criticism." Zane clenched his jaw. He'd hired teens on purpose. His first job had been washing dishes at 15. He knew what it meant to get a shot. He dried his hands and walked to the prep line. "Hey," he said to the chef. "That kid Ty. He's new?" The chef glanced at him. "Yeah. So? He didn't seem that bad." "You've been here 5 minutes," the chef scoffed. "You don't know Jack." Zane stared at him, then nodded slowly. "Right." He walked back to the sink, hands shaking not from the heat this time, but from anger. He stayed the rest of the shift, watching. Ty came out with a new tray of carrots, face pale. The chef grabbed one and grunted, then walked away without a word. By the end of the day, Zane had seen enough. The chef wasn't just tough, he was cruel. And the rest of the kitchen walked on eggshells around him. Outside, sun setting, Zane sat in his car, silent. This wasn't what he built. Tomorrow, he was coming back. And this time, he wasn't just washing dishes. Zane returned the next morning before opening. The air outside was still cool, but the kitchen was already warming up with the first rounds of prep. He wore the same hoodie, same boots, and the same name tag. No one looked twice when he walked in through the back. The general manager, who introduced herself yesterday as Dana, motioned to him without much enthusiasm. "Glad you came back. We've got deliveries backed up and only 2 on prep. We're dragging already." He nodded and stepped into the dish pit. A different dishwasher was on shift, a wiry guy in his 20s with earbuds in. Zane didn't bother him. Instead, he asked Dana if she needed help unloading the truck out back. She waved gratefully. The delivery guy was halfway through dragging a dolly off the lift gate when Zane caught sight of Ty again. He was stacking boxes of lettuce into the walk-in, moving carefully but quickly. His expression was focused, but tight, like he was waiting for something to go wrong again. Zane walked over. "Need a hand?" Ty looked up, confused. I'm okay. Thanks. Lot of boxes for one person." Ty hesitated, then nodded. "Sure. You can stack those near the peppers." They worked in silence for a moment, the hum of the cooler filling the space between them. As Zane set down a case of onions, he glanced over. "You been here long?" "Just over a week," Ty said. "I work afternoons, but they needed help this morning." Zane nodded. "First job?" "Yeah." Ty didn't elaborate. Zane didn't press. But the kid's posture said enough. Back in the kitchen, the chef, whose name Zane had overheard yesterday as Brent was already barking instructions, louder than necessary. A prep cook dropped a container of tomatoes, and Brent slammed a towel down on the counter. "That's the 3rd damn time this week. You people clean up like blind raccoons." Zane watched 2 line cooks exchange a look but say nothing. No one ever said anything. That was the pattern. Dana came around the corner holding a clipboard. "We're still short 2 for tonight. I called corporate, but no help until next week." Brent didn't even look up. "Tell them to send us robots next time. Maybe they won't cry when I tell them they messed up." Zane took a breath and walked over. "I can stay through dinner," he said to Dana. She looked surprised. "You sure?" "Yeah. Dishwasher's got it covered. I can do prep." Dana hesitated. "You're not on payroll yet. HR's still processing you. I'll do it off the clock." She studied him. "Why?" Zane didn't flinch. "I hate standing around." She gave a short nod. "All right. Just don't cut yourself." Zane grabbed a cutting board and joined the prep cooks. The work was steady chopping, portioning, labeling. The kitchen got louder as the lunch rush started. Orders rang from the screens, pans clattered, and Brent's voice carried above it all. At one point, a young woman on grill, Naomi, misread a ticket and plated chicken instead of tofu. Brent caught it before it left the pass. "You want to kill someone with allergies today?" he snapped. Naomi looked stunned. "It's not an allergen ticket, it's a swap. Don't argue with me. Fix it and focus. Or go find another job where you can screw up in peace." Naomi turned quickly back to the grill. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't say anything. Zane's stomach nodded. He'd seen enough kitchens to know tough love. This wasn't tough love. This was a man who mistook fear for respect. The worst came around 4, when a DoorDash driver came in for a pickup. The order wasn't ready. The driver, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, politely asked how long. Brent, who was checking the screen, waved him off. "You can wait like everyone else. I've been here 10 minutes. Customers calling me non-stop. Not my problem. You want the food faster, get a different job." Zane stepped forward before he could stop himself. Maybe don't talk to him like that. Brent turned. Excuse me? Zane kept his tone flat. You could just say it's behind and you're working on it. Brent looked him up and down. You're the temp dishwasher. Stay in your lane. Zane didn't reply. But Dana was watching now. Her face had gone still. He stepped back to the prep station, but the atmosphere had shifted. Brent kept glancing his way. Tension buzzed through the kitchen like a live wire. An hour later, Ty dropped a tray of shredded cheese. It wasn't much. The container cracked and a quarter of it scattered across the floor. He bent down immediately to clean it, muttering an apology. Brent stormed over, yanked the broken container from his hands, and tossed it into the trash. You just cost us $20 in product. Are you trying to get fired? Zane dropped his knife and walked over. That's enough. Brent swung around. Listen, I don't know who you think you are. Zane took off the ball cap and glasses. The kitchen fell silent. I'm Zane Zimmerman. I started this company out of a truck on 38th Street and sold tacos out of a cooler. You've been screaming at kids and customers all day like you run the place. You don't. Brent's face strained. Dana's clipboard slipped a little in her hands. Naomi froze at the grill, spatula mid-air. Zane turned to Ty, whose mouth had opened slightly. You okay? Ty nodded, stunned. Yeah. Zane faced Brent again. You're done here. Get your things and leave. Brent's voice was low. You're making a mistake. No. I made a mistake letting someone like you run a kitchen with my name on the sign. Brent didn't argue. He walked out without another word. Zane looked around. The silence was thick, like everyone was waiting for a second shoe to drop. Dana stepped forward. I didn't know it was that bad. Zane didn't soften his voice. You didn't ask. She flinched but nodded. I'll call HR. Do it now. And find out what the hell is going on with staffing. This place is barely holding together. She walked off quickly. The line cooks went back to their stations, quiet but focused now. Zane walked back to Ty. You handled yourself better than most adults would have. You shouldn't have had to. Ty gave a small, awkward smile. Thanks. You still want to work here? Ty looked uncertain. I don't know. Give me a week, Zane said. If it's not better, I'll help you find something else. Ty nodded slowly. Zane picked up a broom and helped him gather the rest of the cheese off the floor. Naomi walked over and handed Ty a new container without a word. Small things. But they meant something. The rest of the shift moved with less shouting. Orders still backed up. Dana stayed off the floor. But there was a shift in the air. Like the kitchen had taken a breath. Zane stayed through close, silent as the staff scrubbed down stainless steel and stacked chairs. It wasn't fixed. Not yet. But the silence didn't feel tense anymore. Just tired. As he walked out into the night, he pulled out his phone and opened a blank note. He started typing. Mandatory leadership training. Frontline feedback protocol. Kitchen audit process. GM accountability system. Paid mentorship for first-time youth hires. He kept going. The list was long. It was going to take more than one firing to fix what he'd let rot. But he was here now. And he wasn't leaving it to chance again. The next morning, Zane didn't walk through the back. He came in through the front doors before opening, wearing a clean black button-down, jeans, and no disguise. The staff who were already prepping glanced up, confused, but no one said anything until Dana came out from the office. She stopped mid-step when she saw him. Good morning, Zane said calmly. Dana blinked. I didn't know you were coming in today. I didn't announce it. He walked past her and into the kitchen. The crew moved slower than usual. Most were stealing glances when they thought he wasn't looking. Naomi nearly dropped her tongs when she caught sight of him. Ty, stacking cups near the drink station, looked frozen in place until Zane nodded once, subtle. Then Ty went right back to work, focused, deliberate, but just a little steadier than before. Zane circled the kitchen in silence for several minutes, watching how the morning came together. Nothing was polished. The clatter of preps still came with the sound of timers and the occasional dropped lid. But the tone was quieter. No shouting. No insults. He stopped near the walk-in, where Dana had followed. "You've had time to think," Zane said. "Let's talk." Dana gestured toward the office. "Can we step in?" Zane shook his head. "Out here's fine." She folded her arms, unsure of how to stand. "I've already reached out to HR. We found a backup suit from another location. He starts tomorrow." "That's a start." Dana hesitated. "I know I should have stepped in sooner. Brand had numbers. He hit targets. We were always short, and he kept things moving. By grinding people down. I didn't want to lose the whole crew." "You almost did." Dana looked away. "I understand." Zane let the silence hang for a moment, then spoke again. "Who's been interviewing new hires?" "Mostly me. Sometimes Brent did when I couldn't." Zane nodded once. "That stops now. From today forward, no one interviews alone. 2-person panels minimum. And I want notes on every candidate's background, not just availability. You're not plugging holes, you're building a team." Dana gave a slight nod. "Okay." He turned and walked the line again. When he reached Naomi, she stiffened slightly at the grill. "Hey," he said. She didn't look up. "I didn't know if I should come in today." "You showed up. That tells me what I need to know." She looked up now. "I didn't know who to go to. I thought if I said anything, it'd just make things worse." Zane nodded slowly. "You were right to be cautious. That's on me." She blinked, caught off guard by the admission. "I'm putting together a confidential reporting system," he continued. "Outside the store. Goes directly to a regional. You see something wrong, you say something. No fear of retaliation." Naomi exhaled, almost like it had been held in all morning. "Thank you." He moved to the prep table where a new hire, a lanky guy in his 20s named Dawson, was chopping cilantro. Dawson had come in during the dinner shift the night before, but Zane hadn't spoken to him yet. "You're Dawson?" Dawson looked up, startled. "Yeah. First week." "You've worked in food before?" "Nah. But I cooked at home a lot. My sister's got allergies, so I got good at reading labels and stuff." Zane watched him work. His knife skills were clumsy but safe. "You think you'll stick around?" Dawson shrugged. "If it's not a nightmare, yeah?" Zane smiled faintly. "Fair enough." He left Dawson to work and stepped out into the dining area. The chairs were still up on the tables, and the floor had just been mopped. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Rachel," he said once the line picked up. His director of operations answered. "You at store 11 again?" "Yeah. I need a few things. First, send over a trainer from store 3, one of the good ones. This crew needs real support. On it. And I want eyes on all our locations. Quietly. Pull labor reports, exit interviews, customer feedback, anything that smells off. We missed this one. We don't miss another." He hung up and returned to the kitchen. By lunch, the line was moving, but slow. Orders piled faster than the team could plate them. Dana jumped in on Expo, calling out ticket times. Naomi was working 2 stations, and Ty was running drinks to the counter between tasks. Zane stepped back onto the line, tying on an apron and grabbing a pair of gloves. He slid in next to Naomi. "You take grill," he said. "I'll do protein builds." She didn't argue. For the next hour, Zane worked the line like he'd never left it. Chicken, steak, tofu, he moved with muscle memory, not flair. There was no time for anything but speed and accuracy. The team held pace, and customers started getting their food faster. Dana glanced over from Expo and did a double take. Zane didn't notice. He was too busy portioning carnitas onto a bed of rice, sliding the bowl down without missing a step. When the rush eased, he stepped back, peeled off his gloves, and grabbed a cup of water. Ty passed by and stopped. You used to do that a lot? Zane nodded. Every day for years. Ty seemed impressed. You're fast. You get that way when every mistake costs you rent. Ty leaned on the counter for a second. I was going to quit last night. Zane raised an eyebrow. But after what happened, Ty said, I decided to wait. I wanted to see if it actually changed. Zane looked him in the eye. You have any doubts now? Ty shook his head. Not anymore. Zane gave a single nod and moved on. Later that evening, after the second wave of dinner orders started to slow, Dana came up beside him while he wiped down the prep counter. So what now? She asked. You've got a week to stabilize. Then I'd bring in the regional. We're rebuilding store 11 from the floor up. Dana looked exhausted, but her voice was steady. You think people will stay? They'll stay if they're treated like they matter. You've got to make space for that. She blew out a slow breath. I'll do it. Zane pointed to the service board on the wall. Then start there. That board hasn't changed in months. No employee of the week, no shout-outs, nothing. Dana looked at it and winced. I stopped doing that when Brent started calling it the pity board. Put it back up. And not just for stars, highlight someone who made the team better. She nodded. I'll take care of it. Zane left that night without saying much. He walked through the dining room while the last of the customers filtered out. Chairs were being put up again, and the lights dimmed one section at a time. Outside, the air had cooled. He leaned against the hood of his truck for a moment, looking back through the glass at his store. Not perfect. Not yet. But maybe, just maybe, it was finding its way back to what it was meant to be. By the following Tuesday, Store 11 hadn't transformed, but it was moving in the right direction. The sous chef from Store 3, Alan, had taken over the kitchen on a temporary basis. He wasn't flashy, but he was steady, respectful, and kept the line organized without raising his voice. The rest of the staff, still cautious, had begun to test the new tone of the place. They weren't celebrating, but they weren't holding their breath anymore either. Zane returned late that morning, not to observe, but to meet with the staff. Not in the office, he had Dana gather everyone in the dining area during the slow window between breakfast and lunch prep. Chairs were pulled into a loose circle, aprons still on. There were flour smudges on sleeves, and a few eyes darted toward the clock, but no one left. Zane stood in front of them, no script, no clipboard. I owe all of you something, he began. An explanation. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I stepped away from the ground level of this company a while ago. I thought if the numbers looked good, the stores were fine. But the truth is, I stopped listening. I let culture drift. A few heads nodded slowly. Naomi sat with her arms crossed, but her gaze was locked on him now. Ty sat near the edge, hands in his lap. Zane continued, You've had to carry too much with too little support. And when things went wrong, there was no one safe to tell. That's on me. Dana glanced at the crew, then back at Zane. She didn't speak. I'm not here to pretend everything's fixed. But I'm here to make sure changes don't stop at words. He turned toward the service counter, where a new corkboard had already been mounted. It wasn't fancy, just a few sheets of paper pinned up. One recognized Naomi for holding down 2 stations during last Friday's rush. Another had a note about Ty staying late to help clean when the closer called out. A third was blank, ready to be filled. This board's not about praise for the sake of morale. It's about visibility. You do something that makes this place better, we see it. No more silent effort. Alan stepped in from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel, and leaned quietly against the wall. He didn't say anything, just listened. Zane looked at the staff again. I want to hear from you directly. Not just today. I'm setting up a monthly check-in, in person when I can, video when I can't. You'll be paid for the time. If something's broken, I want to know. A voice from the back spoke up. It was Dawson, the new hire. How do we know what we say won't come back to bite us? Zane didn't hesitate. Because it won't go to your manager. It goes to regional. And because if I ever find out someone retaliated for honest feedback, they'll be gone the same day. A few eyebrows rose. Dawson nodded once. No one laughed, but the tension in the room thinned just a little. Naomi uncrossed her arms. What about training? We're expected to know everything in 2 shifts. Half of us figure it out from whoever's less busy. Zane turned toward Dana. You've got the floor. Dana stood. We're restarting the training program. Alan's helping us rebuild it from scratch. Clear checklists, shadow periods, and a mentor system. Every new hire gets someone to show them the ropes, not just what to do, but how to do it right. Naomi raised a brow. And that's not just for show? No, Dana said. We'll track it. You'll sign off, and so will your mentor. If someone's not ready, you say it. Zane added, and if you're mentoring, you'll be compensated for that time. Teaching is work. A few glances were exchanged in the group. Not excitement, but interest. That was enough for now. Ty raised his hand halfway, unsure. Zane nodded to him. What happens when Alan leaves? Ty asked. Is it just gonna go back? Dana stepped forward. We're bringing in a new kitchen lead, but not until they've been vetted by the regional and shadowed here for a full week. You'll meet them before they're hired. If they don't fit, we keep looking. Ty nodded slowly. His voice was calmer than it had been the week before. Okay. Zane took a step back. That's all I came to say. But before I go, one last thing. He pointed toward the counter where a slim envelope Saturday. That's for you, Ty. Ty blinked. Me? You stayed through something you shouldn't have had to. You kept working, even when things were unfair. That doesn't go unnoticed. Ty opened the envelope and stared at the contents inside. A prepaid scholarship application and a letter of recommendation with Zane's signature at the bottom. I heard you want to go into culinary school eventually. This gets you started. Ty's jaw worked silently for a moment. He gave a small nod and looked down. Thanks. No show of emotion. Just quiet acceptance. It felt right. The staff slowly returned to their stations. No applause. No big declarations. Just a different kind of energy. One that moved with purpose instead of pressure. Alan passed Zane near the door. They're a good crew, once they're not looking over their shoulders every 5 minutes. Zane nodded. They always were. They just needed room to breathe. Outside, the sun had pushed through the clouds. Zane leaned against the hood of his truck again, watching as the lunch crowd began to form a line at the front register. The staff inside moved like a team, not perfect, but coordinated. No one barked. No one flinched. He didn't go back inside. Some changes didn't need to be overseen every second. They just needed to be made, and then protected. Zane drove off without the radio on, focused on the next store on his list. Store 11 wasn't fixed. But it was no longer broken in silence. And that was enough for now.